campaigns, and we're going to talk about recruiting because recruiting is, the lifeblood of the sport, and lots of different things going on, including, and I didn't even mention this to Mark before we came on stream. 247 Sports named their top 3 recruiters in the country. Kevin Beard from Miami at wide receiver was one of them. He was the only wide receiver coach on this list of top recruiters. Knowing the world of recruiting and seeing the, just ridiculous Midas-like collection of gold in the wide receiver room in Columbus, Ohio, brother, like, I don't know how you have a list and Brian Hartline's not on it. I'm just saying, I ain't got no love lost for this guy. I ain't got no love lost for that team. But what I'm not going to do is disrespect the greatness. You know what I mean? Like, how do we have the best recruiter in the country / at wide receiver, and yet this other guy who recruits the same position at the same time at a different school comes down here and literally picks whoever he wants from the top of the list every single year? I don't know how that makes sense. I think that Kevin Beard is great. I've met Kevin Beard several times. He's a cousin of a good friend of mine. I've literally been to my friend, my former colleague, we didn't work together, but another high school choir director in the South Florida area. I've literally been at my homeboy's house for a cookout, and Kevin Beard's run up. I love Kevin Beard. I've seen him for a long time do great work. But, we ain't got a lot to kick it. But I think that there's an opportunity for Kevin Beard to maybe show and prove his recruiting acumen, even as early, well, not this week, but a currently ongoing situation, if you will. So, yeah.
I understand possibly making a selection. Let's say if there was, and I'm trying to think of a good example, there was a run of Indiana running backs about 7 to 8, 9, 10 years ago that was really impressive for about 3 or 4 consecutive backs that went on to the NFL, where it was a school that had history, tradition, prestige issues, and there was a really good position coach who was able to somehow break through that and make a name for himself. But that's not the situation with Kevin Beard at Miami. So, it's not like Wake Forest has pulled in like, a ton of great string of cornerbacks. And it's like, well, this position coach is really getting the job done beyond his resources and abilities. But yeah, Brian Hartline, it's funny because people that don't follow recruiting don't know, they're just college football fans, but they know Brian Hartline. Like, his name's like all over the place.
That's all that I'm saying. But yeah, so just wanted to bring that up since we were talking about recruiting. And yeah, I guess I will have my own segue there. So wherein can Kevin Beard start to make a splash to match the level of that list where he's a top or near the top nationally? And look, I think that he does a great job. He clearly has relationships on the trail and things like that. But like, the last time that Miami had a composite for 5-star wide receiver commit, Mark, do you have any idea when that was? A composite, as in not just on one like site, but like pretty much industry wide. Everybody's like, yo, he's this dude, 5-star kind of level. Do you know the last time Miami had that caliber of recruit at wide receiver?
Amon Richards?
Amon Richards, no, because he was a 5-star on one side, but 4-star on 3. So like, he was among the most ballyhooed, but he even was not a consensus everybody 5-star.
Kevin Beard himself.
Ooh, I mean, that would be synergy. Not Kevin Beard himself. He was a 4-star, but not too long thereafter. Do you want one more guess before you go?
No, give it to me. We don't want people waiting.
Lance Leggett in 2004.
I wouldn't have come up with that.
So Mark Pope, I know people would say Mark Pope was a 5-star on Rivals only, not across the board. right? You can have these other guys. They were maybe 5-star on one, like Stacey Coley was 5-star on one, 4-star composite. But like I went and I looked when I was having this conversation, or when I saw that thing about Kevin Beard being the best in the country at recruiting. I went and I said, when was the last time we had a 5-star composite? 20 years ago, guys. 21 cycles from this cycle was the last time that Miami had a across the board consensus 5-star receiver sign. And before that, it was Ryan Moore in 2002. If you remember that name, number 85, throwing up the Heisman sign early in his first game as a redshirt freshman alongside I'm a freaking soldier, Kellen Winslow at the time, right? So the list is long and distinguished of elite receivers from here and elsewhere who have elected not to go to Miami. But Kevin Beard can start to stem that tide a little bit if the visits that are currently ongoing in the middle of this week right now on June 12th go well. So yes, there are official visits that have gone on, like last week, and we talked about Elijah Griffin, a top 10, borderline top 5 player in the country, leading the way there. Gavin Nix from IMG, Luke Nickel, your quarterback in this class, several other guys were on visits last weekend. But in the middle of this week, right here, right now, the two people who are visiting are Vernell Brown III from Orlando Jones High School, who profiles as a wide receiver, 5'11", 170. And he's shooting up the rankings. He was in like the 125-ish range, I want to say, 2 updates ago on 247. But he's up to 38 nationally on 247 and 39 nationally on the composite, which takes into account all of the rankings. So this is a guy who's shooting up the rankings and like pretty dominating on the 7-on-7 circuit. But he's visiting right now, and that would be a big win. His father, Vernell Brown II, played at Florida around the time that, well, we're similarly aged, his father and I. I was in college from 2004. His father played at Florida from 01 to 05. So that's a UF legacy who lives in Orlando, because nobody wants to live in Alachua County. Like, come on, be real. But he's visiting, and he's a guy who's borderline, 5-star status. But this is a kid that pretty much anybody wants on this team, wants on their team. It looks like a big 3 battle, but obviously, it's going to take yeoman's work to overcome the familial connection at the University of Florida. But it's possible, especially if and when Billy Napier gets fired, in the middle of the season upcoming. That was my editorial. Guys, come on. So that's one receiver currently visiting in the middle of this week. The other one is a 5-star. Pretty much everybody's All-American. He was the standout player for South Florida Express when they just won another championship at a major tournament. This one was the overtime 7-on-7. And yeah, on 247, he is 25th in the country. On the composite, he is 18th in the country, number 3 in the state of Florida, number 4 wide receiver overall on both of those boards. One, Jamie French spelled with 2 F's. I told you this story about this kid before when I worked at Miramar, and his mom came to pick him up and spelled the name or said French, and we're looking, and then she was like, "Oh, it has 2 F's." And we're like, "How do you not?" So I've already mentioned this guy, but everybody's All-American, everybody's 5-star, pretty uncoverable at the overtime 7-on-7 this past weekend. He is also on campus for a visit. Jamie French has openly said it's probably Texas 1, LSU 2, Miami 3, in that order on camera. But then did state that Kevin Beard and the relationship he has with KB and things were positives for Miami in his recruitment. But yeah, whatever's happened yesterday and today with those 2 visits for Brown III and for Double F French, and I tweeted it in between meetings the other day. I said, could a random Tuesday in June define Miami's wide receiver recruiting in this class. And it's that possible. Like, that's how impactful these visits are that are going on literally at this very moment while we're talking. So if in my mind, getting either of those guys is a huge win for Miami, because even a Vernell Brown, who's like a borderline 5-star, that's the kind of talent, like that would be your Amon Richards level of talent. But then again, Amon Richards is the best receiver that we've seen in 5 ever, right? So if Miami were to get either of those guys, and especially Jamie French, who I think is going to end up as like a top 20 level player in this class, that's super duper duper huge. But yeah, so if Kevin Beard is the recruiter that 247's list makes him out to be, I believe that you find a way, come hell or the literal high water that's out here in Fort Lauderdale, to figure out how to get one of those guys assigned. If you get both of them, oh my God, that I haven't even considered that, because I don't even think that's really possible. But yeah, 2 visits that are currently ongoing in the middle of the week that are huge visits. Last weekend went well with a lot of different guys, including a commitment that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and then visits upcoming this next weekend. So, we're right in the middle of the rainy season in Fort Lauderdale, and also just over the recruiting season, and things are going well. We did get another commit, like I said, and we're still moving chess pieces around the board, but yeah, things are going in a direction where I think that you should be excited as Miami fans.
Falconer TRX kicking us off as always. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for being here and for your support as always. Super sticker from Falconer TRX. You can support as well, folks. The super chat's available. Leave your comments and questions. Before we move on to that commit coming in from this week, this may be unfair to throw this at you, but if you went through all the main targets and then you sized up where you would gauge the lean to be at this point, whether it's a 40% chance, an 80% chance, whatever it is, you added all that up to a certain extent. And of course, you can't do that possibly right this second, but is there a position group, or is there an area in which you're thinking we're not in a really good place here because, let's say, our top 3 targets don't look like they're leaning this way, and then where are we going to go for this or that?
Off the top of my head, because 2 of our biggest targets have recently committed elsewhere, linebacker. Elijah Menendez is committed to Miami. Kissimmee Osceola, linebacker. I think it was Rivals re-rankings last week, now has him as the number 2 inside linebacker in the country in this class on their services rankings. So he is a very talented guy, but TJ Alford and Zayden Walker, who were, TJ Alford is a kind of Vernell Brown level recruit, like a high 4-star, borderline 5-star if things shake the right way. And then Zayden Walker is like a top 15, gets off the bus, oh my God, he's in high school kind of guy. And they have both recently committed to Ohio State and Georgia. So, and they were way at the top of the list for linebacker in this class. Which, there are other available options. Gavin Nix from IMG, a little not as athletically imposing as either of those guys. And I think that would probably be where we would go. He's not like a backup plan of, really, because he is a high caliber recruit in his own right. But just, again, losing out on the top 2 guys on your board means that, if you're going after a Gavin Nix, you really need to get that guy to pair with Menendez. So yeah, off the top of my head, just because of recent commitments elsewhere, linebacker, but there's probably another position in there as well.
Okay, so that brings us to the commitment from an Alabama product, I believe, in Timothy Merritt, the defensive back, and some question as to whether he will land as a corner or safety.
Yeah, so Timothy Merritt, 2 R's and 2 T's, if you guys were going to look up the Huddle film, is from Birmingham, Alabama, Parker Senior High School, 6'2", 180 pounds, listed as a corner and taken, I believe, as a cornerback. Um, Big, tall, lanky, rangy. Doubled at wide receiver for Parker last year. Really good straight line speed. You can see in his huddle film there. And yeah, this is a guy that, we're looking at as a bigger kind of corner. I saw X, shout out to X in 305 on Twitter, made the comparison of Timothy Merritt to former Miami Hurricanes cornerback Michael Jackson, who was also from Alabama, I think also from Birmingham, maybe, in terms of play style. Tim Merritt loves contact, man. Like, you watch his film, he plays outside corner some, but I would say it's like 15 or 20%. Like, he's playing either slot or safety 80% of the time. And this is a guy who has ball skills. Like I said, he did double on offense, and he loves getting downhill, man. Like, you see him at safety, and they're trying to throw bubble or tunnel screens or whatever, and he will be in his back pedal for 3 steps, put that right foot or whichever foot in the ground, and then get vertical towards the ball. And I mean, there's some hard hits on there. And I mean, if he's going to stick at corner, if he's going to stick at corner, there's some work to be done. I think that he's a high quality ingredient, but he's definitely clay, not a finished sculpture in terms of his abilities at cornerback. But Chevis Jackson was the lead recruiter, as you see right there, just visited last weekend. Chevis being a bigger, taller, lankier cornerback himself, kind of sees Tim Merritt in that same kind of a way, to my understanding. I could see it happening. I think he has the physical profile to stay at corner. I think to a measure, you're almost trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole, because I think that him inside, either if it's like an overhang, a defender or safety, I think it's a seamless fit already right there. But 6'2" corners, they don't happen often. And if you're able to be proficient at that position, at that size, like, that can really be a game changer, so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, this is a player with a lot of ability. Again, Birmingham, Alabama, you go into the heart of SEC country to get him committed. Now, it remains to be seen if he actually signs. Miami has gone into the Deep South several times for several guys. Remember, Traquan Fagans was committed to Miami before he ended up, I think he signed with USC, Southern Cal, Fight On. Best fight song in America by far, by the way. And then guys like Landon Ibieta, the slot receiver from Louisiana. And all of a sudden at the last minute, LSU comes in with his dream offer. They were like, we're not going to offer you. You're too small. You're whatever. And then they came in with an offer at the last minute, and then he goes there. Kevin Riley, the running back in the last class from Tuscaloosa County. Miami had him committed forever from Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, like the high school in the county of, where the university is. And then all of a sudden at the end, it was like, well, we actually do want you to come to Alabama. And, so those are just 3 examples over the last 7 years-ish of times when Miami has gone into SEC country, gotten the commitment at whatever point in the process, but did not end up with that player on the roster down at the end. Now, I know you're thinking to yourself, Cam, we got Dylan Day from Southern Lab School in Baton Rouge, right? We're on the campus of Southern University, the HBCU down there. True. Yes, we did. You have other guys in the past. Reggie Wayne is from the boot. And we didn't read. Yeah, but you're going back 25, 30 years now, guys. Like, there are examples, but it is an ongoing battle always in recruiting, but especially when you go and you play and you have a national footprint and you play these away games and you go and win them early in other people's territory, you still have to like maintain that relationship. I've been watching a lot of Civilization, Sid Meier's strategy game. They just announced Civ 7 the other day at a gaming expo. But, you know, think of it like you have your own empire, like the state of Miami, and then you have a random outpost somewhere. Loyalty pressure on that is going to be crazy. Why? Because it's not here. So you're going to have to continue to send envoys. You're going to have to maybe have a resident military over there. You're going to have to continue to have a presence to this spot out there to make sure that it's connected to your empire, even though the proximity is really not close. In the world of recruiting, it's a similar kind of a thing. I love it. I think that going and getting Tim Merritt fits in this class. Now, I do believe he might be a 2-year project. I'm not going to really even say 3 years, because if it's a 3-year project thing, then that person's not going to be on the roster at that point, because I do think that he needs a little bit of refining. So maybe in the middle end of his redshirt freshman year, we could see him starting to hit the field. But, you know, there's still a ways to go to get him to sign, but I just wanted to put that out there.